Property Insights, a podcast about the future of property and construction in Melbourne. Brought to you by South Melbourne Business Community and sponsored by SiteTech.
Hi and welcome to Property Insights. My name is Eric. This video is the second episode in a series that discusses the future of property and construction in Melbourne, brought to you by the South Melbourne Football Club Business Community. There are 7 podcasts in total and 6 are focused on property, including this one. Today I'm delighted to welcome the Lord Mayor of Melbourne, Sally Capp, for her unique perspectives on the future of Melbourne and the property sector. And specifically, we'll be exploring Sally's thoughts on the next phase in Melbourne's evolution as one of the world's most livable cities and priorities for local government. Sally, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Eric. Lovely to be here.
Great. Well, let's get started. What in your view makes for a livable city?
Gosh, it's a big question, isn't it? But from my perspective, it's a place where people can realise their full potential and follow their passions. It's a city that has lots of livable areas, so public open spaces, green spaces, those areas where you can access culture or be stimulated, and we've got plenty of those in the city. It's got to be a place that has lots of good job opportunities, and we also know that a city that has a caring and safe community goes a long way towards livability.
Sure does, and a proud history we've got in all of that. So as we move towards 2030, the next 10 years, what is your vision for the city of Melbourne, the CBD, and also, I guess, outside of the CBD?
Well, there's no doubt that COVID has created a massive disconnect in the lives of Melburnians and us as a city. We're on this amazing trajectory pre-COVID, and there's been so much economic hardship as a result of the pandemic. We've really got a big, concerted, combined effort going forward. And for us, there's a central platform to that, and that's being a city of yes, Eric. We need to move into that phase of saying yes to thriving businesses and jobs of the future, yes to big events and attractions for which we are globally renowned, yes for the green space and livability that we just spoke about, and yes to feeling safe, but also feeling very confident that we can have a bright future here in Melbourne. And that's the sort of approach that we're taking post-COVID in the city of Melbourne.
Great, and our audience is full of property and construction members. So how do you think the property and construction sector can contribute to the vision that you've just outlined?
Oh, in so many ways. I think the property sector has been a major part of many other recoveries, not just in our city, but cities around Australia and the world. It's a key indicator of the success of communities as well in terms of what's being built. So from our point of view, firstly, we know that coming out of COVID, it's got to be about jobs and businesses. And the Property Council data tells us that the property sector contributes $60 billion to our gross state product and employs almost 500,000 people. And it's about making sure that the sector can continue to be successful and contribute in that way. We know that construction plays a big role in economic vibrancy. And look, construction has kept so many small businesses in the city alive, even during the lockdown, because of the activity that has continued. And as we look forward, infrastructure, housing, and making sure that there are good commercial developments and projects into the future create that economic stimulus now, but also mean that we can attract major employers and companies in the future, that we can have a diversity of housing options, and that we've got fabulous places for people to enjoy pursuing their passions. All of those things come back to the construction sector. So we see your sector as absolutely pivotal to our success in the immediate and the long term.
Well, it is good to see so many cranes still over the city, even despite the COVID era, isn't it? So tell me, with regards to that, then what do you see as the key challenges and obstacles in bringing that vision forward?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one because a big part of the success of the property and construction industry is how economically successful we can be as a city. And the great thing about still seeing cranes, and I can look out my window here in Docklands and see cranes still going at it, is that it brings a sense of confidence to the future of our city as well. So they're intertwined. There's a virtuous cycle there. So from our perspective, we know that as a city and local government of a capital city council, we need to be driving economic opportunity in a sense of success that will then support construction, and that in turn then supports our economic success. So, for example, we need to do everything we can to retain and attract businesses, to bring workers back into our city, to make sure that we've still got a formidable offer in terms of events and attractions so that we remain a destination of choice. But importantly for construction and property, we need to ease the burden of red tape. We've announced some initiatives already as part of the current election campaign, which are very much around post-permit approval processes to make them faster, clearer and more certain. We think that'll reduce burden and cost. It is about setting timeframes for every approval process we have and making sure that we stick to them. It is about reviewing barriers such as Amendment C270, for example, that tends to limit some of the bigger floor plates in the city. And it is about, as we've done, extending construction times when warranted. We've done that during lockdown to be able to keep people on the job. They're just a few examples of the things that we can be doing to help make construction pivotal to our recovery, because we know that then is significant in our long-term success.
Yeah, it certainly does have a lot of potential for job creation moving forward, doesn't it? And there'll be a lot of people listening that are going to say, well, you know, how can I help? How can I support the City of Melbourne? How can I help us bounce back, if I can call it that? If you had any requests of the industry or any advice on how they can support it, what would you say to that?
Well, look, I think the industry has been absolutely fantastic to maintain whatever work levels have been allowed during this lockdown, to be able to keep their teams on for as long as they have. I note that the federal government budget really supported apprenticeships, asset purchases, equipment purchases, and profit buybacks effectively, all of which goes to supporting the construction sector. I'm saying all of this because the best thing that the sector can do for the City of Melbourne is to remain active, to keep investing in your own teams and your own businesses, to be able to respond to projects as they come up. I've been so pleased that even during the lockdown, we've still had a very busy planning approval schedule, and that says a couple of things. One, that particularly the major developers have ongoing confidence in projects in the City of Melbourne. And two, there's going to be a good pipeline of jobs to bid for and ways in which we can keep your teams busy. So the best thing you can do for us is to remain proactive. To that end, actually, we've put forward a procurement policy that favours Melbourne-based businesses by 30% in future procurement tenders. And so we'd encourage everybody to be very proactive in City of Melbourne projects particularly.
Oh, great. Just prior to coming on air with you, we were talking about new technology in the background, and specifically the 5G technology and just how fast that is, and also electric vehicles, things like that. So there's an immense amount of new technology coming into play here. How do you see some of these technologies contributing towards Melbourne as a livable city moving forward?
I think it's massive. The one thing about COVID is that it's really accelerated a lot of ambitions that we've had. For example, working from home and workplace flexibility has been an ambition in corporate Australia for a long time. COVID has really pushed that along. And use of technology, I mean, everybody knows how to use different, I'm going to say, Zooms and Teams and technology like this, where previously we all thought we had to be in the same room, and this is showing us that we don't. So technology, us as a smart city and the way we continue to use it is going to be really important. Don't get me wrong, we need people to come back into the city. We're used to having almost 1 million people every day coming in and out and really driving our city economy, and we need to see that come back when it's safe to do so. But we also know that technology has become more familiar to us and needs to be more entrenched in the way that we operate our city going forward. All of our data points, from pedestrian counts to car parking counts to the way that people are connecting across our city remotely as a result of lockdown, all of those things need to be ongoing in terms of how they inform our policies and strategies. And we are a 5G testbed. It was one of the things that I've worked hard on over the last 2 years, is to make sure that we have the best available platform to be able to utilise technology as a smart city. And can I just say, it's as simple as things like the contact tracing that we're going to need to use for a long time in the modern world, and having that work well and technology apps and platforms available to support that is going to be key to us getting going safely again as well. So we are big supporters of using technology, as long as we can do that in a way that continues to bring people back to the city.
Yeah, won't it be great when we've got so many people walking the streets again and the life returning to the city? Speaking of which, obviously over the last couple of decades, we've seen an increasing amount of people coming and living in the city and in some of the high-rise apartments. How do you, as the mayor, optimise the mix between that the people living there and the social side of it versus the commercial precincts? And how do you see that going forward?
Well, we have become one of the most livable cities, and a lot of that's had to do with the fact that we've had an increase in the number of people living in our municipality, but particularly our CBD. And key to the recovery from the recession in the early 90s was a policy called Postcode 3000 that started to favour residential projects over commercial. And we've seen a proliferation of people choosing to live in apartments in the city. In the Hoddle Grid, in the mid-80s, we had 685 people registered as living in our CBD. Wow. That number today is now beyond 42,000. And of course, you spread that then across our municipality into places like South Bank and beyond. We know that our residents have become that heartbeat that really underlie that economic base case for the city. So we have seen more questions more recently about whether we need to go back to doing more for commercial projects in the city. Maintaining that balance is important. And I think we can do it well, because in terms of us compared to other capital cities in Australia and around the world, we've still got huge capacity for development. We've got really big urban renewal precincts like Fisherman's Bend and Arden. Fisherman's Bend, 80,000 residents, 80,000 jobs is the aim. And in Arden, it's 15,000 residents, 30,000 jobs. And they are basically, still sites with amazing potential in terms of projects. And Docklands, where I live, where I'm coming to you from now, still a number of major developments to go here to welcome residents into a neighbourhood which now has more than 72,000 workers, about 12,000 residents. So there's still great capacity for us to keep building on residential and commercial, and we're hoping we can continue to do that well, because it's been a hallmark of us as a destination vis-a-vis even other capitals like Sydney, where they don't have that same mix.
Great. Sounds exciting. Sally, sustainability is a big topic in today's world. I was reading this week that now solar is the cheapest form of electricity. I think they called it King Solar. Electric vehicles, I mentioned earlier, are becoming a much bigger part of the world in transport terms. How do you plan to engage with some of these aspirational goals around sustainability, and what do you see coming on that front?
Well, look, we are a city that absolutely believes in climate action and sustainability as being important for the long-term resilience and success of this city. And we don't think that's mutually exclusive with all of the things we're trying to achieve as a city. And it is also a mix of the new and the old. For example, 60% of the emissions in our CBD come from existing commercial buildings and the way that they use energy. So looking for technology solutions and innovation, could be solar. There's all sorts of amazing ways to be able to incorporate more renewable energy into existing buildings these days. So we're a fan in promoting that. We have had the Melbourne Renewable Energy Project underway, which has meant that we are 100% powered by renewable electricity in the city of Melbourne. Every street light, every barbecue, every piece of equipment in our gyms is powered by renewable energy. We'd love to see more of that and look for partnerships, ongoing partnerships with the private sector. New buildings, I think, are naturally moving to better levels of sustainability ratings, and that's fantastic. But we do need to look at the existing built form if we're going to make a big difference. And one of the most effective ways we can do that, Eric, is around greening. So green spaces, more trees. We're planting 150,000 trees and shrubs at the moment around the CBD. Garden rooftops, green walls. They bring down the temperature of the city. They help us manage storm water well, which is something we're highly regarded for in Melbourne. And we think they add a lot of attractiveness to bring workers and visitors into our city. So we're really keen on our partnerships that we have around greening the city.
Great. Fantastic. Let's turn our attention then to probably the biggest topic of the day. Let's face it, with COVID. So it's been a very challenging time for everyone in Melbourne, and I guess pleased to say that the numbers appear to be coming down and staying down. How do you see the rebound taking place in Melbourne over the next few months? What can you tell us about the path out of COVID?
Terrific. Well, we've got a reactivation and recovery plan, and I was able to negotiate the $100 million City Recovery Fund with the Premier, the biggest fund that we've ever had at the City of Melbourne, to be able to facilitate a swift and strong rebound, which is going to be so necessary for us. Absolutely key to this is returning workers, and we've seen that in cities around the world. Of the 950,000 people coming in and out of the city each day, just over half of those were city workers. There are some key barriers that workers perceive. One is public transport. So Department of Transport's working hard on how we can make that work well, social distancing and cleanliness. It's why we've been accelerating the bike lanes so that people can ride their bikes if they're close to the city. It's why we've been talking about free and cheap parking around the city for those where their only option is to drive. We have been keeping the city COVID clean even during these quiet times to build up that confidence that people can come back. And then we're talking to major employers around staggering start times, staggering days, to be able to work the logistics of getting people up and down elevators in our towers and doing that well. We're encouraged by the fact that the longer lockdown has gone on. I guess it's no surprise the more determined people are to get out and about and return to the city. And so we have a number of initiatives underway to make sure that that irresistible offer that the CBD has is reinforced in people's mind. Everything from our major events, they will be different with social distancing and a lot of outdoor activity, but it doesn't mean they can't be fantastic. outdoor dining you would have heard about. And then moving forward, some key features that I'm proposing, for example, Melbourne Dollars, a major campaign to give a discount to diners but full value to hospitality venues so we can help save that amazing sector of ours, and other elements of bringing back the buzz from major sporting events through to public art. All of those things are on the table as a way of really pushing our city economy and bringing people back. And as I said, a focus on keeping those construction projects and a strong pipeline of those projects going is another central part to our plans.
Wow, I think as people listen to that, they'll be gearing up for a return to the city, and I think everyone will be so excited to make that happen. Okay, look, we're nearing the end of our time, but there's one question I did want to ask you, I guess at a personal level. I mean, I know you work incredibly hard as the Lord Mayor of the city. What, you know, at a personal level for you within the property and construction sector, what are some of the things you're personally really excited about, you know, in the next few years that are coming our way?
So we're pretty excited to see our city kickstart again with big events like the Australian Open and the Grand Prix, which are going ahead at this stage. We've got some great things to look forward to. But from our perspective, we need to also engage in some big city shaping projects to give people a sense of that vision and that long-term future for our city. One of those is a project called Green Line, which is the Melbourne version of New York's High Line, which is really about regenerating undervalued parts of cities, bringing people, creating new connections and new perspectives for cities. And we are starting the Green Line, which runs really from Birrarung Ma through to Royal Park. We're starting the first phase on the North Bank. It's about re-enlivening and regenerating that part of our city, which is pretty undervalued and neglected at the moment. It will create a lot of construction jobs with new infrastructure, and it will attract locals and tourists alike. And it's something with the High Line in New York that started as an idea, is now their top tourist attraction, has created property value uplifts and is terrific for locals. It's those sorts of big projects where we're keen to start turning the sods as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Well, Sally, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the property sector for all your hard work as the Mayor. I know there's an election campaign going on, so good luck with that. And we really appreciate you coming on to the podcast here today and sharing your thoughts and aspirations for Melbourne moving forward. So thanks very much for your time, Sally. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Hope to see you in the city soon.